if you go to a dentist, if you hire a plumber, in all the professions, there is value added by the professionals as a group compared to doing it yourself or just randomly picking laymen. In the investment world, it isn't true. Well, I've said in the annual report that I've known maybe a dozen people in my life. And I said there are undoubtedly hundreds or maybe thousands out there, but I've said that I've known personally a dozen where I would have predicted or did predict in a fair number of those 12 cases, I did predict that the person involved would do better than average in investing over a long period of time. And obviously, Charlie is one of those people. So would I pay him? Sure. But would I take financial advisors as a group and pay them 1% with the idea that they would deliver results to me that were better than the S&P 500 by 1%, and thereby leave me breaking even against what I could have done on my own? There's very few. So it's just not a good question to ask whether, I pay Charlie 1%. That's like asking, whether I'd have paid Babe Ruth, 100,000 or whatever it was to come over from the Red Sox to the Yankees. I mean, sure I would have, but there weren't very many people I would have paid 100,000 to in 1919 or whatever it was to come over to the Yankees. So it's a fascinating situation because the problem isn't that the advisors are going to do so terrible. It's just that you have an option available that doesn't cost you anything that is going to do better than they are in aggregate. And it's an interesting question. I mean, if you hire an obstetrician, assuming you need one, they're going to do a better job of delivering the baby than, if the spouse comes in to do it, or if they just pick somebody up off the street. And if you go to a dentist, if you hire a plumber, in all the professions, there is value added by the professionals as a group compared to doing it yourself or just randomly picking laymen. In the investment world, it isn't true. I mean, the active group, the people that are professionals in aggregate, cannot do better than the aggregate of the people who just sit tight. And if you say, well, in the active group, there's some person that's terrific, I will agree with you. But the passive people can't all pick that person, and they don't know how to identify him. So
it's even worse than that. The expert who's really good, when he gets more and more money in, he suffers just terrible performance problems.
Yeah.
And so you'll find the person who has a long career at 2 and 20, and if you analyze it, net all the people have lost money because some of the early people have had a good record, but more money come in later and they lose it. So the investing world is it's a morass of wrong incentives, crazy reporting, and I'd say a fair amount of delusion.
Yeah, if you ask me whether those 12 people I picked would do better than the S&P working with $100 billion, I would answer that probably none of them would. I mean, that would not be their prospective performance. But when I was talking of them, or referencing them, and when they actually worked in practice, they dealt generally with pretty moderate sums. And as the sums grew, their relative advantage diminished. I mean, it's so obvious from history. The example I used in the report, I mean, the guy who made the bet with me, and incidentally, all kinds of people didn't make the bet with me because they knew better than to make the bet with me. There were hundreds, at least a couple hundred underlying hedge funds. These guys were incented to do well. The fund-to-fund manager was incented to pick the best ones they could pick. The guy who made the bet with me was incented to pick the best fund-to-funds. And tons of money, and just with those 5 funds, a lot of money went to pay managers for what was subnormal performance over a long period of time, and it can't be anything but that. And it's an interesting profession when you have tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people who are compensated based on selling something that in aggregate can't be true, superior performance. So, but it'll continue, and the best salespeople will tend to attract the most money. And because it's such a big game, people will make huge sums of money, far beyond what they're going to make in medicine or you name it. I mean, repairing the country's infrastructure. I mean, the big money is huge money is in selling people the idea that you can do something magical for them. And if you even have $1 billion fund, and get 2% of it for terrible performance, that's $20 million. In any other field, it would just blow your mind. But people get so used to it, in the field of investment, that it just sort of passes along. And $10 billion, I mean, $200 million fees. We've got two guys in the office, that are managing $11 billion. Well, no, they're not. I'm sorry. They're managing $20 billion. Between the two of them, $21 billion maybe. We pay them $1 million a year, plus the amount by which they beat the S&P. They have to actually do something to get contingent compensation, which is much more reasonable than 20%. But how many hedge fund managers in the last 40 years have said, I only want to get paid if I do something for you? Unless I actually deliver something beyond what you can get yourself, I don't want to get paid. It just doesn't happen. And it gets back to that line that I've used. But when I asked the guy, how can you, in good conscience, charge 2 and 20? And he said, because I can't get 3 and 30. Any more, Charlie, or we used up our...
I think you've beaten up on them enough.
Yeah, well...
Hi, Warren and Charlie. My name is Brian Martin, and I'm from Springfield, Illinois. In the HBO documentary, Becoming Warren Buffett, you had a great analogy comparing investing to hitting a baseball and knowing your sweet spot. Ted Williams knew his sweet spot was a pitch right down the middle. When both of you look at potential investments, what attributes make a company a pitch in your sweet spot that you'll take a swing at and invest in?
Well, I'm not sure I can define it in exactly the terms you would like, but we sort of know it when we see it, and it would tend to be a business that, for one reason or another, we can look out 5 or 10 or 20 years and decide that the competitive advantage that it had at the present would last over that period, and it would have a trusted manager that would not only fit into the Berkshire culture, but that was eager to join the Berkshire culture. And then it would be a matter of price. But the main, when we buy a business, essentially we're laying out a lot of money now based on what we think that business will deliver over time. And the higher the certainty with which we make that prediction, the better we feel about it. You can go back to the first, wasn't the first outstanding business we bought, but it was kind of a watershed event, which was a relatively small company, See's Candy. And the question when we looked at See's Candy in 1972 was, would people still want to be both eating and giving away that candy in preference to other candies? And it wouldn't be a question of people buying candy for the low bid. And we had a manager we liked very much, and we bought a business that was paid $25 million for it net of cash, and it was earning about $4 million pre-tax then, and we must be getting close to $2 billion or something like that pre-tax that we've taken out of it. But it was only because we felt that people would not be buying necessarily a lower price candy. I mean, it does not work very well if you go to your wife or your girlfriend on Valentine's Day. I hope they're the same person, and say, here's a box of candy, honey. I took the low bid. It doesn't. It loses a little as you go through that speech. And we made a judgment about See's candy that it would be special, and probably not in the year 2017, but we certainly thought it would be special in 1982 and 1992, and fortunately we were right on it. And we're looking for more See's candies, only a lot bigger. Charlie?
Yeah, but it's also true that we were young and ignorant then. And
now we're old and ignorant. Yeah.
Yes, that's true too. And the truth of the matter is that it would have been very wise to buy See's candy at a slightly higher price. And if they'd asked it, we wouldn't have done it. So we've gotten a lot of credit for being smarter than we were.
Yeah, and to be more accurate, if it had been 5 million more, I wouldn't have bought it. Charlie would have been willing to buy it. So fortunately that we didn't get to the point where we had to make that decision that way. But he would have pushed forward when I probably would have faded. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that the guy came around. Actually, the seller was he's the grandson of Mrs. C, wasn't he, Charlie? He was Larry C's son. Am I correct? Or Larry C's brother. But he was not interested in the business, and he was more interested in girls and grapes, actually. And he almost changed his mind. Well, he did change his mind about selling, and I wasn't there, but Rick Aaron told me that Charlie went in and gave an hour talk on the merits of girls and grapes over having a candy company. This is true, folks. And the fellow sold to us, so I pulled Charlie out in emergencies like that.
We were very lucky that early the habit of buying horrible businesses because they were really cheap. It gave us a lot of experience trying to fix unfixable businesses as they headed downward toward doom. And that early experience was so horrible, fixing the unfixable, that we were very good at avoiding it thereafter. So I would argue that our early stupidity helped us.
Yeah. We learned we could not make a silk purse out of a sow's ear.
No,
so,
we learned.
So we went around looking for silk.
But you have to try it for a long time and fail and have your nose rubbed in it to really understand it.
Okay, Becky. Becky, quick.
How much time is spent reviewing Berkshire stock holdings, and is it safe to assume if Berkshire continues to hold these stocks that the thesis remains intact?
Well, we spend a lot of time thinking. Those are very large holdings. If you add up American Express, Coca-Cola, and Wells Fargo, I mean, you're getting up, well into the high tens of billions of dollars, and those are businesses we like very much. They're different characteristics. In the case of, you mentioned United Airlines, we actually are the largest holder of all four of the large. We're the largest holder of the four largest airlines, and that is much more of an industry thought. But all businesses have problems, and some of them have some very big pluses. I personally, you mentioned American Express. If you read American Express's first quarter report and talk about their Platinum card, the Platinum card is doing very well. The gains around the world, I think there were 17% or something like that in billings in the UK, and 15% is the original currency, or the local currency, Japan, Mexico, and very good in the United States. There's competition in all these businesses. If we thought we did not buy American Express or Wells Fargo or United Airlines, but Coca-Cola with the idea that they would never have problems or never have competition, why we did buy them is we thought they had very, very strong hands, and we liked the financial policies in the case of many of them. We we like their position. We bought a lot of businesses, and we do look to see where we think they have durable competitive advantage, and we recognize that if you've got a very good business, you're going to have plenty of competitors who are going to try and take it away from you, and then you make a judgment as to the ability of your particular company and product and management to ward off competitors. They won't go away, but we think, I'm not going to get into the specific names on it, but those companies generally are very well positioned. I've likened essentially, if you've got a wonderful business, even if it's a small one like See's Candy, you basically have an economic castle. And in capitalism, people are going to try and take away that castle from you. So you want a moat around it, protecting it in various ways that can protect it. And then you want a knight in the castle that's pretty darn good at warding off marauders. But they're going to be marauders, and they'll never go away. And if you look at, I think Coca-Cola was 1886, American Express was 51 or 52, starting out with an express business. Wells Fargo would, I don't know what year they were started. Incidentally, American Express was started by Wells and Fargo as well. So these companies had lots of challenges, and they'll have more challenges. And the companies we own have had challenges. Our insurance business has had challenges, but we started with National Indemnity as $8 million purchase in 1968, and fortunately we've had people like Tony Nicely at Geico, and we've had G. Jane, who's added tens of billions of value, and we've got some smaller companies that you probably don't even know about, but really have done a terrific job for us. So there'll always be competition in insurance, but there'll always be things to do that a really intelligent management with a decent distribution system, various things going for them, can do to ward off the marauders. So to the specific question, how much time is spent reviewing the holdings, I would say that I do it every day. I'm sure Charlie does it every day. Charlie?
Well, I don't think I got anything to add to that either.
Well, we'll cut his salary if he doesn't participate here.